Hello, my name is Stephen Wade, and I'll be doing my presentation on the Boys and Girls Club. I had to write a lot of it down because you can't freestyle something that's 5 minutes or longer. It's pretty hard. So, I think one of the biggest problems that minority youth face in America is bullying, sexual predators via online, just like bullying, drug and alcohol abuse, coming from single parent households, and then the violence that happens in low income areas. Also, in some middle to low class areas as well, or more so in the low income areas. And Chicago is a prime example of that. I think that more kids in the low income areas tend to go towards the streets as a sense of a home, amongst peers that they may know, or a family that they're looking towards or trying to find in the streets, to make up for things that they don't have at home via the single parent homes, maybe being on, not able to afford the shoes and the clothes that all the other kids have at school, and the attraction of the street easily grabs their attention because it's like, it's readily available, and you think that a person is there for you because they're giving you drugs to go sell to help you try to get those things, or but in the long run it's for them and their longevity, and you're just a pawn in the game. So you know I think that is a huge issue that faces the minority youth. As far as the single parent households, I think a lot of kids that come from those typically have a lot of anxiety and depression issues, and they're just looking for love. So they're usually the more rebellious type, maybe start skipping school, eventually leaving school, running away, and do things that's, I won't say that's out the norm of a kid that's from a low income area, but it's something that's drastically different in a sense because they're just kind of missing the love portion because the parent may be working too much, or maybe not showing them attention and giving all the attention to like a younger sibling. And if it's only just three, maybe four in the house, the youngest always gets the most attention. So it's kind of a give and take thing for them. So and then when you look at the drug and alcohol abuse, I think that can come from either the low class or the single parent households. Kids who typically delve into drug and alcohol abuse is because they probably either have anxiety or depression issue, or it's available to them and they're just able to get a hold of it. Because I speak for me, for example. I know weed was a thing that it was heavy in my neighborhood. I even sold it, so it was like readily available and easy for me to grab and start doing when I was younger. I don't do it now, but when I was younger, it was just a thing that was easy. Kids that did cocaine, X, Molly, etc. It was because they could get it, and everybody wanted to try the new drug that was, hitting the market, or what could attract the girls, or for girls what could attract the guys, So, and I don't want to say that is a huge problem in the minority community. I think, well, it is. More so the Hispanic community and maybe the white community, more so than all the other races. And then bullying and sexual predators. Bullying, the whole evolution of technology has really changed the world. Bullying can come in many forms. And kids that are typically bullied, they look for outlets. So those are also the ones that could turn to drugs, alcohol, run away from their homes, and somehow end up in this crazy thing of sexual predators. The online community is really rapid right now because of online predators. So again, my presentation will be of the Boys and Girls Club. which I'll be going into now. The Boys and Girls Club of America was founded in Hartford, Connecticut in the year 1860. It was three women who started the Boys and Girls, well, at that time, the Boys Club. Their names were Mary Goodwin, Alice Goodwin, Elizabeth Helmsley. And their whole purpose of starting this foundation was to, have it to where young men didn't have to roam the streets and they could find a positive alternative. So from that, they created their mission that to enable they would enable all young people, especially the ones who needed them the most, the ability to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens in the world. In 1906, they combined with several other organizations, and that's when they created the Boys Club Federation of America. Shortly after, they would change this to just the Boys Club of America. And then in 1990, when they started recognizing that they started having a lot of girls coming in, they decided to change it to the Boys and Girls Club of America. And also, upon looking all this up, I found that they were supported by the government, approximately almost $521 million actually in support. From private donations, they were looking at $869 million in help and funding. And based off other income, it was $455 million. So that could come from, just other charities or fundraising events, etc. Also, some percentages that were, that stuck out to me and were kind of honestly amazing. 73% of the low-income members ages 12 through 17 who attended the Boys and Girls Club on a consistent basis received A's and B's in school, opposed to the 69% rate of the other low-income kids in America. So that right there actually is pretty big. And then some other statistics that can be looked at. For kids 16 and older, 41% of them who attended the Boys and Girls Club on a regular basis tended not to fight in school. 38% were likely to graduate. 19% were likely to go to college. 18% were less likely to skip school. Ages 13 through 15, 40% were less likely to consume alcohol. 31% were less likely to fight. 30% less likely to smoke weed or delve into other drugs. 15% were likely to be physically active in either football, basketball, rowing, any sport or something that just would get them out to be socially active. The age group 9 through 12, 38% would actually believe the school was meaningful and beneficial. 16% were likely to graduate high school from attending the Boys and Girls Club on a consistent basis. And also another thing that I found pretty interesting was that they have a program, a gang prevention and intervention program. And they noticed that from that, most of the kids or the juveniles that were in the program had less contact with the juvenile justice system. A lot had fewer delinquent behavior. So that's no truancy from school, no smoking weed, no fights in the streets, etc. Most that attended actually had higher grades, and also those that attended had a greater chance to graduate or get their GED. And of course, as I stated earlier, in the 9 to 12 range, a lot of the kids became more socially active and were able to step outside their boundary of, their gang ravaged neighborhood or whatever they had, and were productive citizens of society. All right, and for the most part, most of my references came from the Boys and Girls Club.org. That's where I received most of the information about the Boys and Girls Club. Also, the statistics came from the 2017 National Youth Outcomes Report, which was a reference through the Boys and Girls Club as well. I think As far as reform purposes, I think personally, one thing that can be done more of is that the law enforcement officials don't need to target a certain area, because when you do that, that's when you put most of the minorities into one category. So even if a kid isn't in trouble, kind of being a target pushes you in that lane. Because I say when I look up the kid that was actually one of the child murderers, actually, I think Lionel Tate was his name. The kid was young and watching another kid, and he ended up killing the kid. Not to say that it's right. It shouldn't have happened. The parent that was there, watching the other little kid should have, been cognitive of what was going on. But to lock that young man up at such a young age, at the age of 13, 12 when he did the crime, and to consider him practically nothing in society. So you throw him away, and then you come back and, they finally overturned it and gave him a long probation sentence and all this. But at that point when it happened and he goes through this, his mind is already warped. He's become the animal that they feel like, how most prisoners feel they are when they're in those cages. He's considered an animal at that point. So now a trend is already set. So he's likely to now repeat, which he did, because now he's serving like a 40-year sentence for a robbery and something else that I saw. So, he's repeated practically everything that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen all because of a mistake he made when he was very young and not even knowing what is going on. So, from the Sage Journals by Donnelly in 2018, one of the quotes I took was effective, disproportionate minority contact should ideally diminish the influence of race on processing outcomes and give more weight to objective differences in cases such as severity or use prior adjunctions. Basically saying that, how I started off by saying that a community shouldn't be the target. It should be the child and what they went through. It shouldn't be the color of their skin. Also, another reform that I feel like that I don't know if it would really be a reform, but if they allowed like more community-based programs to where older guys or OGs, as we say, out of the neighborhood to kind of oversee what happens in the neighborhood, because I think then you allow for somebody within to fix the situation before it implodes. So one of the quotes that I saw from one of the peer-reviewed articles, The Neighborhoods and Violent Crime, a multi-level study of collective efficiency. The capacity of residents to control group-level processes and visible signs of social disorder is thus a key mechanism influencing opportunities for interpersonal crime in the neighborhood. So, like I say, if you just allow older people in that community to really take those kids under their wings and handle handle issues in the communities in-house, yes, still have law enforcement presence around to, find out what's going on, etc. But allow those older members of the community to really police that neighborhood and spread that love so they know that the older people are watching and are there for them. So, again, this is my presentation. My name is Stephen Wade. I hope everyone liked it. It's kind of tough to do this, but it was actually pretty fun. It's the first time I've ever done this out of the 2 colleges that I've been to. So I thank everyone for your time, and good luck for everybody going forward. Thank you.